Hello and good evening, and welcome to the regular board meeting of the St. Peter School Board. It's Thursday, January 18th, 2024, and we are in the Governor's Room of the St. Peter Community Center. We will call the meeting to order. First up is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If there's anyone here who wishes to speak, please make sure to talk to Sarah to get your name on the list. First things up is consider and adopt the agenda, which is before you in your packets and in the board book.
I'll make a motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is adopted. Thank you. Do we have any requests to speak? All right. Next up is approval of the consent agenda, which is also in the packet in front of you and in our board book. If there are, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
I'd like to recognize two things, please. The first is 4 graduates at Rock Bend in January. We had 4 returning seniors, Robert R.J. Lon, Kyra Vanderlinde, Tiernan Grancy, and Jaden Boswell, all completed their credits, which is really, really awesome. So really proud of them. And I also wanted to recognize that Brenda Egan has submitted a memo for her retirement, and she has served St. Peter Public Schools. This is her 27th year.
Wow.
She served at St. Peter High School, and also now she's at the Hoffman Learning Center. So a wonderful special education teacher who is ready to move on at the end of the school year. So I just wanted to highlight those two things.
Thank you for pulling those. Do we have any discussion about the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to pull item number 4, donations.
Okay. So we will pull those out to consider separately. Any other discussion about the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just a correction relative to the next meeting date. Just because of the way the calendar works with the 1st of February being a Thursday, the 4th Thursday would actually be the 22nd as opposed to the 15th. Just a technical correction.
Yeah, thank you. So we last board meeting, or the organizational meeting, we passed the usual routine schedule is that we meet the 3rd Thursday in February because President's Day is the 3rd Monday.
Exactly.
But because of the unique calendar, that February 1st slid in there on a Thursday and makes the 22nd the 4th.
Exactly.
Thank you.
The 3rd Monday is followed by the 4th Thursday.
Who's on first?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling that out, Ken. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda items, minus the item number 4, which we will consider in a moment? No further discussion. We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. We have also pulled out item number 4 for consideration. And those are, we would like to recognize donations that have been made. Mr. Kelp.
Yes, I would move that we accept donations from Jeff Miller in memory of his wife, from the memorial donations for Frank Fredlin to the St. Peter Activities Department, and a donation from the Boyum family.
Thank you. So we have that motion to consider to approve these items separately as one. We'll treat them as one thing, accepting this one item.
Second. Or I'll make them.
He made them.
He made the
I
motion,
made the
sorry.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kate. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And then I would like to suggest in the future that we keep the donations out of the consent agenda and recognize it as part of a regular agenda item.
I agree.
Thank you. Good decision. Yeah. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on accepting the donations, and recognizing and accepting the donations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you to the generous donors who have given to the district. All right. Next up, the best part of the night, student spotlight. We have Stephen and Jaden with us. Miss Sikora will introduce them.
We're bringing a guest as well.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So you already heard Jaden's name. Jaden Boswell is one of our January graduates who's here tonight from Rock Bend, and then Stephen is also here. Let's start by just letting you introduce who you have with you.
I have Noah Jean. This is my almost 2-year-old son.
Who else is back here? You got lots of fans.
I have my older sister Alyssa, my mom, and my new stepdad.
All right. What'd you bring, Stephen?
Who I have with me, I have my mother in the back. This is the woman who's supported all of my dreams and my aspirations. And for a very big part of why I'm here, she also always has pushed for me to do the best I can academically and graduate high school.
For sure. So I asked them to just talk about a couple of things today. The first one being why they chose to come to Rock Bend from St. Peter High School. So whoever wants to go first.
I can go first. I came to Rock Bend personally because for many years I struggled with getting a grasp on my education, and I fell quite behind in credits. And so I was informed about Rock Bend through a family friend, and I got put onto the registration and had to wait for a spot. And once I did get into the program, I really started to do really well there.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah.
I chose Rock Bend because the high school is a lot bigger of a crowd, and their teaching style is a lot different than Rock Bend. And I knew a few friends that went to Rock Bend, and they said they enjoyed it and their teaching was very well, and just the environment was very good.
You came to us when we were here during COVID.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we were here for just a little while. Yeah. All right, and both of these two have overcome several challenges, and I have to tell a story. I'm going to tell a story about each of you, actually. You know, as an educator, you kind of have like these defining moments that you just will always remember about a student, and I will never forget the day that Jaden rode her bike to summer school in the pouring rain. I mean, it was pouring. Do you remember this? And we had to find her a tracksuit from the gym to change into so we could dry her clothes. But she rode her bike in the rain. You maybe remember that too. I mean, and that moment just was like this defining moment about like this girl is gonna do whatever it takes, and she did. And so this is emotional for me. But and Stephen is a summer school story also. I remember you were in Mrs. Dimmick's class, and I walked in. I was just kind of walking around, and he is debating. I don't remember what book you were debating with Mrs. Dimmick, but just head to head. And I just, in that moment, thought, like, this guy is going to go far, like, really challenging what she was thinking about the book they were reading. So it was just awesome. But those are things that I've seen in you. But what are some challenges or defining moments that you can think of in your career?
I can go first. I would say one of my biggest challenges was everybody else's struggle is getting up and just getting to school every day and wanting to have that drive to become a better person because of the education system. And one of my biggest problems was I didn't have that healthy want or desire to better myself at a younger state of myself. And so through the years, I kind of had to come to terms with what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. And one of the big steps for me was Rock Bend. I'd say one of that.
I challenged with teen pregnancy. I got pregnant when I was 16, and I had really bad morning sickness, so that kept me out of school for a while. Yeah, and I just had to learn how to balance my life. And it was hard, but I had a lot of support behind me to help me just get a schedule and stick to it. I want to thank Ms. Sikora for being patient with me and just helping me, supporting me.
You have really persevered. When she came back, she said, I'm a mom now. I got to do this. Like, all right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was awesome. And you kind of both already touched on this, but what's an academic accomplishment you're proud of, and what's next?
I'd say an academic accomplishment for me was my grades rose significantly when I started to regularly attend and actually try in school. And I think what's next for me is getting a job in the trades to really feel like I'm making an impact in my life.
Yep. What's an accomplishment and what's next?
Honestly, just graduating was an accomplishment. Just being able to be done and being able to balance my school life, my family life, and work life all in one. Definitely a big accomplishment for me.
You're going to take some time to work now that you're graduated and wanting to do an apprenticeship in a trade also. So these are two students, and I could have brought all four of our graduates and Stephen and more because these guys are just really doing awesome, and I could not be more proud of these two especially. So their teachers nominated these as the two to bring tonight, but yeah, they're doing really well. So thank you. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I want to say this, and I'm going to try not to cry, but you know what? Life is messy, and you guys, as you go through life, your dreams will change. And don't let anyone ever tell you that your dreams are wrong, and they might change a million times. You just keep pushing through, okay? Stephen, I remember you. Just keep going. And don't ever, when you get to be 50, just keep going, keep changing your dreams, and don't ever let anyone tell you you guys are different or wrong or that you took a wrong path, because we all do. Just keep on going, because you guys are awesome.
Absolutely.
I have a question, if I may. Stephen, you mentioned you had to wait a bit to get into the Oak Bend?
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, into Rock Bend? How long did you have to wait?
I waited a full school year
Okay.
and maybe a month.
So there's typically
Total
a
wait time.
significant waiting period.
We are doing so much better now. When Stephen was trying to get in, we had one classroom, I believe, and we expanded to two right about the time that both of these two came in. So that wait list was significantly longer in the past, and then right after COVID, it was longer than it is now. Now we're pretty much able to get kids in the next quarter.
That's good. Glad to hear that.
I think just to add to the last thing, I think one reason I had to wait very long or wait longer was I applied kind of in the middle to end of the school year, so I could get processed until the next year.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And Jaden, just one quick comment. In approximately 17 years, give or take, your son is going to be right here, student council rep, and ready to go into class of 2041.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
you guys.
congratulations.
If everybody had your attitude, it would be in good shape.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Student council report. I don't believe we have one today because we don't have student council reps. So we'll move on from that. We have action items up next. These can be found on the agenda in the board packet. The first is to consider approval of the 2022-2023 audit.
Here they come.
Ms. Gracia, welcome.
I have Lane here. Lane is from Abdo. He has been with our district for 10 years.
Sounds about right, off and on, but for the most
So,
part, yes.
It's been quite a while. But I'm going to let him do the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to stop him, and him or I can hopefully answer anything you have. So.
It's not going to be quite as engaging as the last one, I don't think, but we'll try our best here to keep everybody attentive.
He might cry.
Yes, it's what we're going to do here is go through the fiscal year 22-23 audit. So we put together a high-level summary of the year's activity. We're going to look at various trends, drill down a little bit more during the year. We're not going to go through the audit report line by line. We did go through it a little bit more detail about a month ago now at the Finance Committee, is that official term? Again, we're going to try to keep it high level. If there's any questions along the way, feel free to ask at any time. Or Megan, if you have anything to add, feel free to interject. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to go through is our required communication, what our responsibilities as auditors are versus what your responsibility is as a school board. We're going to look at your main operating fund, your general fund, look at a couple of your other operating funds that you have, and then also compare you to some key performance indicators, how you stack up to other districts in your area and other districts throughout the state. So the first thing that we're going to go through is what the objective of a financial statement audit is and some required communication through auditing standards. So a lot of times people hear of audit, they think we're coming in, we're looking for fraud, we're looking for wrongdoing. That's not the case of a financial statement audit. We are engaged to opine on the financial statements using reasonable assurance that they're free from material misstatements. So really what that means is that we're looking at the numbers to make sure that they're free from significant errors. So we use a lot of our judgment, we use a lot of random sampling to look at what is going on during the year. So there may be some areas that we'll look into more, some areas that we'll look into less. So an audit really is a moving target, and it really a lot of it comes down to our professional judgment. So again, ultimately our responsibility is to opine on the financial statements, or the financial statements themselves do fall back on the school board through acceptance of the audit report. So with that, we have a clean or an unmodified opinion for fiscal year 22-23, which is good. That's what you want. We're also required to look at other areas of compliance at the state level, and then also do additional audit testing at the federal level. So there's been a lot of federal funding being given out over the past couple of years through the different rescue plan acts, and we did perform a single audit during fiscal year 23 over two major programs, Title and the ESSER program. So we'll go through the audit results here and the findings that we have for fiscal year 23. So for the first three findings, those are findings that you have pretty typically over the last few years. So preparation of financial statements, basically saying that we as auditors assist in putting together the financial statements, the audit report itself. It's about 125 pages now. So for our independence purposes, we disclose that as a finding. We have a limited segregation of duties finding in the food service department. Again, that's something that you've had the past few years. Year-end audit adjustments, saying that we come in and adjust year-end account balances to get them in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We have one compliance finding through MDE related to student activities, which has been consistent over the past couple of years. And you can refresh my memory, Megan, but I believe it was related to purpose summaries, and then maybe a negative balance or two in there, related to the student activities, and then internal control over the financial system related to some differences that we saw in what was reported in the approved budget versus what was actually in the accounting software system. I know that Megan is looking at remedying most, if not all of these as part of her goals as she moves forward here, but do you have anything else that you want to add on those, Megan?
Nope, I think we are looking to take care of 2, 4, and 5. So we will still have the first and third findings probably for quite some time, but.
Yeah, and kind of what obviously Megan's new, so our goal is to chip away at those, continue to build that knowledge base as we move forward. It's the fund accounting and the different continuous new standards is always challenging. So again, we'll continue to make progress as we go forward here. Any questions on that? All right. So again, a lot of these findings were similar to the prior fiscal year of 22. There were a couple findings that were remedied related to the excess cash in the food service fund, and then also collateral coverage. So the excess cash, you do have 6 months now, a temporary reprieve up from the previous 3 months that we were allowed to for changes related to COVID. Okay, so we'll switch gears a little bit and look at some of the numbers starting on page 7 here with the average daily membership. So you can see here over the past 5 fiscal years where your ADM has been at. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anybody. This has been the general trend that we've seen for ISDs. You kind of had that high point in 2020, and then you saw a decrease in your enrollment from 2020 to 2022, and then it leveled off in 2023. So at the end of the year, you were at 2,043 for your ADM. And so if we look at 23 a little bit more on page 8, what we'll do is compare your final budget in that far left column to your actual amounts in the middle column. So first we'll look at revenues and expenditures. You also have some other financing sources and uses in there related to some leases and other financing activity. But you began the year with about $7.5 million in fund balances, and budget called for about a $2.2 million decrease. So what actually happened, you had about $1 million decrease in fund balance from that 7.5 to right about 6.2 million. So a few reasons for that. You did have a positive variance in your revenues. So that first top line, you anticipated about 31.4 million. You ended up being about 31.5. So the biggest variance in that is you had a positive variance in your SPED funding, or about $170,000 more than what you anticipated. The reasoning for that, however, is that your SPED costs were up. We'll see that in a few slides here. But your SPED costs ended up being about $500,000 higher than fiscal year 22. Total expenditures anticipated about 34 million, and actually had about a $1.2 million positive variance on the expenditure side. So actual expenditures came in about 32.7 million. A lot of that is going to be related to salaries and benefits. That ended up being about $500,000 related to that, to the positive on what was budgeted. You also saw about $450,000 in kind of one-time capital projects that were anticipated that didn't end up being spent in fiscal year 23. So a combination of some of those factors ended up having about that $1.2 million positive variance when your final budget was approved versus your actual amounts for fiscal year 23. Anything, Megan, that you want to add on the general fund for 23?
I'll let you keep going.
Okay, we'll keep moving forward. So if you look at the general trend in your general fund balances, one measure of liquidity that we'll look at is your unassigned fund balance compared to not only percentage of expenditures, but where your internal benchmarks are, or your target unassigned fund balance. So you can see at your high point in the enrollment in 2021 that you were above your targeted fund balances. That has changed a little bit as your expenditures have increased and your enrollment has decreased over those past few fiscal years here. So at the end of 2023 and 2024, we anticipated, or our target fund balance was right about that 4.1 million, where you've seen those general fund balances decrease from that 5.2 high mark to that 3.2 in 2023. So one thing to point out too, when you think about your total fund balance of that 6.2 million on that previous slide versus that 3.2 in 2023, we're really focusing on your unassigned, the dollars that are available for spending at the board's discretion. There are some restricted fund balances there that MD is going to say you can only spend on specific things. So that's the reasoning for the difference between those two numbers.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
What percentage is that then of our expenses? You know, when people, do you know?
That's a good segue into slide.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Good stuff.
Oh,
So,
perfect.
yes. So we will look at your percentage of expenditures. We recommend right about 1 or 2 months of reserves in place. Obviously, different districts have different internal benchmarks, like we said. But again, you can see where you're at compared to the statewide average. So statewide average is going to be the yellow line there, and then your other districts in your area, which is Region 9, kind of the greater Mankato area, is going to be that black line. So a lot of the districts are right around that 32, 30, 31, 33%, right around that range. You're right in there in that 2021. Again, you can see that those percentages have decreased in the past couple of fiscal years related to those increase in the expenditures. inflationary costs, other factors, decrease in enrollment too, it goes in there too, down to that 19% at the end of fiscal year 23. So again, we'd recommend 1 to 2 months of expenditures as part of that reserves, anywhere from that 8 to 16%. So you're a little bit higher than that, albeit a little bit lower than your peers.
And this is the unassigned one, right?
So this is going to be your total fund balance expenditures as a percentage of your 33 million.
Do you just like going back and forth just to mess with us? Or?
Not really, but
I mean, I barely understand this to begin with, and then we have to go back and forth.
yes.
I'm sorry, I'll stop.
No. Any other questions that that you have? Okay. So the next slide we'll look at is your general fund revenues per ADM. So as we mentioned, you did have a little bit of an increase in your SPED funding. You're a little bit higher than your peers at both the state and the region level. So every dollar that the general fund does collect, about 3/4 is from state functions. You can see that your federal sources and your local sources, which include property tax levy, ends up being about 1/4 of that. And we can drill down a little bit more on that property tax on that far right column there to see how you compare again to other schools in the state and through your region. So on a per ADM basis, you are a little bit less than your peers, and you're a little bit higher in both the property tax value and property tax per home. So a lot of that is going to be makeup of your tax base and the difference between what's ag, what's residential. But overall, on your per $100,000 home value, which ultimately is going to be the impact on your taxpayers, you're pretty much right in line with both the average at the statewide level and other districts in Region 9. Okay. Total expenditures, so again, changing gears a little bit, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the expenditures other than just pointing out, as we noted, that you're continuing to see an increase in expenditures. A lot of it, again, inflationary in nature these past couple of years as the challenges relate to that. One thing I do like to point out is how much is going towards the support versus how much is being dedicated to the instructional side. So in 2023, about 63% of every dollar the general fund did spend was related to the operations, mainly to your regular instruction and your SPED instruction in the general fund. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. So we also have a breakdown by object code there as well. Again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time other than just noting that, as you know, your biggest driver and your costs are going to be related to your salaries and your benefits. Okay. So what we're going to look at now is your general fund expenditures per ADM and compare to the statewide average in box and whisker plots. So we're going to break it down into quartiles and really show the different trends over the past 4 years on that per ADM basis and your cost to operate. So what this is going to indicate is the statewide average, which is the yellow line, and also your school district, which is in the orange. So again, thinking back to the past few slides, with that declining enrollment and the increase in the cost, you can see your cost to operate on a per ADM basis continues to outpace where some of the statewide averages. Now, it's not really anything that's way out of line. You're pretty much right in line with where that statewide average is at. We also don't have all the data access to the statewide reports for fiscal year 23. Again, a lot of school districts are related, have similar challenges to what you do. So I would anticipate that yellow line to actually increase a little bit higher in fiscal year 23. So again, trending in the same direction as your peers. And as we mentioned a couple slides ago, about 2/3 of those expenditures are related to the regular instruction and the SPED, so we can drill down a little bit more on that as well. So if we look at your total costs on the regular and secondary instruction expenditures here, you're pretty much pacing in the same area of your peers. Now, if we drill down a little bit more on the SPED side of things, on the next slide, you can see where your costs are continuing to increase higher than the statewide average. Now, a lot of that's going to be on a needs basis, right? But the way that the special education funding mechanisms work, there is a lag on when you actually get that revenue compared to when your costs are incurred. So as it's just one thing to note as you go through your budgetary process that as those costs continue to increase, you're gonna continue to see that additional lag in the cash flow and the reimbursements from the state. Any questions on the general fund before we move to food service and community service? Okay. So same thing with the food service fund. We're gonna look at your budget compared to actual. So a lot of changes to the food service function over the past 3 years related to all the students being eligible for the free lunch, now charging for services in fiscal 23, now back to the state funding in 24. So very difficult to budget for this. I will note that you had $1.6 million in food service revenue in fiscal year 23. That was down about $700,000 from the prior year. Again, those changes in the funding mechanisms at the federal level was really the primary driver related to that. So costs really didn't change a whole lot. That 1.8 million is pretty consistent with where the costs were at in fiscal year 22. A lot of that is just related to the cost of food. We've seen a lot of challenges related to the vendors and the costs related to those meals served. So anticipated about a $345,000 decrease. Actual change in fund balance was about half of that, from about 1.2 million down to a little over $1 million at the end of 23. So again, we can compare you to the statewide average. You can see again, you're trending pretty similarly to other schools having the same challenges you've had over the past past 4 fiscal years here. Okay. Same thing with your community service fund. So your revenues were about $60,000 over budget or higher than anticipated, and your expenditures ended up being about $14,000 higher than anticipated too. So you did see a $237,000 loss during the year in the community service fund. That's been pretty consistent over the past few years on where that community service fund has operated. So revenues were up about $100,000 from fiscal year 22, but so were the costs. So our recommendation is to look at either charges for services in there, do a budgeted transfer from the general fund to eliminate that deficit, but really it comes down to the intentions of the school and the school board on where you want to dedicate your resources and how you want to finance those various programs that the community service fund does offer and operate. Okay. Same thing in the community service fund, looking at your peer group average, really nothing out of line. Pretty consistent year over year with the statewide average. Any questions related to community service fund, food service fund? Megan, anything you want to point out related to those? Okay. So a couple more funds here. Food debt service fund. You do have the refunding bond that is out there, the dollars that are sitting in escrow that will be refunded on February 1st of 25. After that, you're going to have your more consistent debt service payments on that 2022 building bond. So not a whole lot of change there as that was recently refunded. So if we combine everything that we talked about related to the operating funds, you can see your total cash balances actually increased a little bit from 22 to 23 by about $300,000. So as you noted, you did see a little bit of decrease in the food service, general fund and community service funds. You did have about a $500,000 increase in your self-insurance fund. So you had positive cash flow there. And then you also have that $735,000 set aside in that trust fund for the scholarship. So at the end of 2023, you had a little bit under $13 million in total cash and investments available outside of that dollars that are in escrow for that refunding bond. So that is all I had to go through, unless there's any other questions for me or anything else, Megan, that you want to point out related to the audit.
I just want to thank Megan and her staff and Lane. This process is weeks, months long, and takes many, many hours to put together, and I appreciate all of your efforts and work to keeping us on track, making sure we're staying on track. So thank you.
Yeah, if there's anything that comes up Megan has my contact info. I'd be happy to answer anything as it does.
Charlie?
Yeah.
I noticed on the second page there where you talk about the results, it says there's one instance of non-compliance under the state.
Yep.
Could you refresh my memory? And
Yeah, and that's related to those student activities
Okay.
and the purpose summaries. So that's really been an enhanced focus, especially with some different GASB changes over the past few years. Is the way that the student activities are handled. They're brought into the general fund now, so there's a little enhanced focus on it, and MDE has a little bit more guidance out there on what they want us to look into. So the main one was the purpose summaries, is that anytime you do have a student activity fund, is they want the board to be approving that. I know Megan's asked some questions about it too, and just being really clear on, we have these student activity dollars, here's what we want to be spending them on, here's the intent of it, and there's other areas in there too, but that's the main point of it, or the main point of emphasis on that non-compliance. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks everyone, appreciate it. And like I said, if there's anything that comes up, we'd be happy to answer it.
Thanks, Lane.
All
Thanks,
right.
Megan.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. So we have this in front of us. We need a motion.
I move that we approve the audit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any further discussion?
I will say that, being the new treasurer, I had quite a learning experience today.
Yeah.
So, but we'll try and keep a handle on all this and let you know how we're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we have approved the 2022-2023 audit. Next up, consider the approval of tentative 2023 through 2025 contract agreement with the paraprofessionals. Would Superintendent Gronseth or anyone from the Human Resources Committee?
Sure, I can dive in first. We had a very positive experience working with the paraprofessional unit on negotiating their contract. One of the main things that we talked about was the need to really increase the starting wages, but really the wages across the board for our paraprofessionals who have been a bit behind with their salary. And so they did have a little bump in their pay and also in their longevity. So it was a $1.70 per hour increase, and then a 10-cent increase on longevity for each of those steps. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I thought it went fairly well. In fact, I was surprised that third meeting, just boom, we're done.
Who's on the HR committee now? Obviously, Mr. Cowell,
Yeah.
And Drew.
Drew.
And
Ms.
Ken.
Russell. Any other comments from HR committee, Superintendent Gronseth?
No, I just appreciate the, what can be a contentious situation was very cordial and professional, and it was a good process. I appreciate it.
We need a motion.
I'll move that we accept the agreement.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Just to add to what Mr. Dixon and Mr. Cowd indicated, I only was involved in part of the negotiations, but again, I enjoyed that experience, and it was very collegial.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we have approved the tentative 2023 through 2025 contract agreement with the paraprofessionals. Thank you. Next up is another one. We need to consider the approval of a tentative 2023 through 2025 contract agreement with custodians.
Yes, custodians, custodian engineers, delivery drivers, and housekeepers are included in this. Another positive experience as we worked through the negotiations process. One of the focus of this process was, again, looking at those starting rates. And so the custodians agreed to, for the first year, to have what I call a flat rate increase across the board. So generally, when we're talking about increases, we're talking about percentages. That typically means a lower amount in the beginning and a higher amount at the end because their salaries are affected by percentages. So when we apply a flat rate increase, that means that the beginning of the scale actually moves up a little faster. So the first year had a flat rate increase, the second year did have a percentage. And again, it was a really positive experience working with the group. Their focus was being able to recruit and retain maintenance staff. Just as an aside, I can tell you today, as of today, we are fully staffed in maintenance.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Yes. And part of it was, they knew that this starting amount was going to be a little bit higher.
Mhm.
So it was enough to bring some more people in.
That's great.
Good.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the custodian engineers, delivery drivers, and housekeepers agreement, contract agreement.
Awesome.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I too was happy to see a flat rate increase accepted by all parties. It's not necessarily something that's popular through history, because a percentage does favor those who have been there longer, and oftentimes, this isn't always the truth or the case, but oftentimes it's the most experienced people who are there negotiating. And so I think this is just a recognition of like, yep, it's more important to us to have attractive wages for all rather than just benefiting the people who've been here the longest. And I thought that was it was impressive. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have approved the 2023 through 2025 agreement for custodians, custodian engineers, delivery drivers, and housekeepers. Thank you.
I should have noted when we were doing the consent agenda, but related to the custodial contract, we have hired a new operations and maintenance supervisor who will be beginning with us on March 4th. Seth Putz is coming to us from the northern reaches of the state in Baudette, where he has served in the same role for their school district.
And he'll have a full staff.
Yes.
Great.
You're welcome, Seth.
Yeah. Wonderful, thank you.
That's great.
Next is consider approval of high school course program changes for 2024-2025. Ms. Engeldinger.
Yeah, this is always kind of a fun time of the year to see what our departments bring forward for new and fresh ideas for classes. The registration process is in full swing. As soon as these are approved tonight, our kids will get a look at the new course offerings starting in February. So in front of you are the the new course offerings. Some of you saw them, I believe, earlier this week. Our Family and Consumer Science department is obviously very very popular. We have a new teacher in that department this year, Courtney Shoemaker. She comes with a new set of skills and is excited to offer a baking and pastries course. So that will be a fun new offering for kids. I'm sure that will prove to be very popular as well. I always joke, sort of, that the school was planned with the culinary arts classroom directly across from the administrative offices in the building, and so I'm excited about the possibility of the baking and pastries class.
I'll be stopping by more.
Right. I'll probably be seeing a lot of you more often. Our Phi Ed department already offers a weights and wellness class, and so the opportunity for kids who are interested in taking a second in an advanced weights and wellness class is being offered, and depending on how many kids are interested in that, they're willing to offer that at the same time, and differentiate for those kids who want to take it a second time. We're a little unsure how this Let's Go for a Walk class will actually be offered, but we'd like to get it into the course book. We don't necessarily have enough teachers to have that run right now, but their vision for this is that there are a lot of kids sitting in the commons in study hall right now, and so rather than sitting in study hall, maybe they'd like to earn a partial credit for, spending 45 minutes with the PE teacher. Anyway, we'd like to get this in the course book. We're not sure if it'll run next year,
it'll
but
run.
we'd like to.
They're going to give credit for
Or
people
walk.
for walking.
Walk, maybe run. Anyway, we're not sure if it'll walk.
Or it'll walk.
Right. Our ethnic studies course is, we have offered, I can't think of what it's been, a social justice course for the last several years. That is changing to an ethnic studies course, and that is a new requirement through the state of Minnesota, that we're excited to have in the course book this year. And Dan Clark is now, he's now qualified to teach a MSU concurrent enrollment history course, History 191. The other exciting thing about that too, I'll be sharing during the principals update, but that makes us one step closer to being able to get kids almost 2 full years of college credits.
Wow.
Yeah, in the Minnesota transfer curriculum.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Any questions about these?
Yeah, any questions?
So History 191 will take the place of AP History?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an action item, I see.
It is.
It is.
Well, I will make a motion to approve the high school course program changes as presented.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Nice work. Looks like very, very good courses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the work that our teachers put into these.
Any other discussion? We will proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we've approved the high school course program changes for 2024-2025. Thank you, Ms. Engel.
Thank you.
Next up, we need to consider approval to amend a previously passed resolution calling for a special election. Superintendent Groundsett.
I thought January was a good time to really test our Robert's Rules of Order knowledge.
Yeah.
And so in December, we did pass a resolution calling for a special election. Unfortunately, on page 3 of that resolution, there was an error in the the description of a polling place. And I can't remember which one it was now. I think one of them said Ward 1 Precinct 2, but it's Ward 1 Precinct 1. So we're just a number off. And so this is the corrected description of those polling places. And so the only thing that would change would be the correction of 1 or 2 letters in that description. So what you would do for Robert's Rules of Orders is you would make a motion to amend a previously passed resolution. And then there would be a second, there would be discussion, and then you would do roll call vote because the original was a resolution. You know, and after 15 years of being a superintendent, this was actually my first amendment to a resolution that was passed by a previous school board.
Okay.
Because you had a different
Yeah, 'cause
school
we did
board
it.
last month.
Given that, I'm gonna take a shot at this. I move that we amend the previously passed resolution calling for a special election.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? So the correction is simply the language on that polling places.
Correct.
It's not the location, it's
Uh,
just the
excuse me,
description.
It's
the
the
description of
description.
the, yes, thank you. Any discussion? Discussion. All right, hearing none, we will proceed to vote, and this is, because it is a resolution, we will do a roll call vote. So, I will go around the table. Mr. Rosso?
Aye.
Ms. Rosbach?
Aye.
Ms. Stewie?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Count?
Aye.
Mr. Dixon?
Aye.
Ms. Martins?
Aye.
The ayes have it. So the resolution is passed. We have amended the previously passed resolution calling for the special election.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That was easy.
That was easy.
That was so
Take
much
that,
fun.
Robert.
Let's
That
do
was
it
fun,
again.
yeah.
Let's do it again next month, shall we?
No.
That is the end of the business items for tonight. We will now move on to our information items. The first of which is enrollment options, a yearly comparison report. Who is speaking about that?
I am.
Superintendent Gronseth, the floor is yours.
This actually happens to be one of my favorite reports each year because I just find it really interesting. And it's a great time to kind of challenge some of the perceptions maybe that come up. And so it really is a report that you'll want to spend a greater deal of time with, poring over all of these numbers. But what this tells us is the number of students who reside within our school district and choose to go to our school district, and the number of students that go elsewhere. So either public schools, charter schools, online, parochial schools, home schools. There's many options that people have, and this breaks it all down and gives a 5-year history of those numbers. So just looking at some of the big total numbers, rather than spending a great deal of time on this report, the total number of students leaving the district is 366. Now, if you look right below on that chart on the left at other public schools, this is the number of students leaving the district, the number of students coming into the district, and then the net difference. So there are 144 students who opt to go to some other public school. So live in our district, but go somewhere else. But there are 197 that come to our district from other districts. So it's a net difference of 53. So we're gaining 53 students at the end of the day when it comes to comparing with other public schools. Looking at charter schools, obviously all of their students come from other districts because charter schools don't have a resident district. So we have about 51 students in total between charters and online schools. So we think about charters around here, it's usually the New Country School. And then the online there's a number of online programs anywhere in the state that they could be attending. Parochial, we have 144 resident students who are attending parochial schools, and then 27 that are homeschool. So on the bottom right is kind of a breakdown of our enrollment. We have 2,091 students. 197 of those are coming from other districts. So if you flip the page, you can see the breakdown by district or the online programs as well. So just going right across, you can see there's that 366 students who opt to go elsewhere, and you can see where the big numbers stick out. Cleveland has 69, and on the next page is students coming to St. Peter. The second column is 47. So we have 69 going to Cleveland and 47 coming from Cleveland. So you can do the math from there. I like to point out the next column, Mankato. There are 43 leaving for Mankato, but there are 66 coming to St. Peter from Mankato. And you can spend some time poring over this and kind of comparing to see who are the gainers and the, I don't want to say losers, the net outcome of each district.
The non-gainers.
The non-gainers.
But I do like to point out that overall, we do gain students from other districts. We bring in more than are going out. My question always with families who are leaving, if I have the opportunity to chat with them, is to really find out, are they leaving, are they running away from something, or are they running to something? You know, are they going towards something that we don't offer and maybe we should look at offering, or is it something that we need to fix here? So, and then the last page lists the homeschool and all of the parochial schools and how many students attend each of those schools from St. Peter. Questions? I will note that with the parochials, we are seeing that number continue to come down. We did see higher numbers during the pandemic, and some of the families who opted to go to the parochial school are opting to perhaps finish their elementary or finish their middle or continue there. So.
And then another factor would be there are a couple more grades that didn't exist maybe 5 years ago too.
Yeah, they are listed by grade, and you can see that there are.
But I'm just looking on
Very
your
few
first
students.
page, the total number of parochial students.
Yeah.
So, JI went to grade 8 now, right? So that's another opportunity.
Right, and you can see that their total number of students in grade 7 and 8 is 4.
Yeah.
So it's not a big part of the difference, but it does contribute to it.
And we're making a little progress in the homeschool area.
Mhm.
That big jump during COVID, and we're starting to come down.
I think a big piece of that was it people that were working from home or who had susceptibility to COVID and wanted the kids to stay home.
Is there a possibility that kids are listed twice if they're homeschooled and their homeschooling is online, or is that not just based on the Department of Ed? You can't do
Yeah.
homeschooling online, right?
Right, those are two separate listings. So if they're online, they are actually registered with the school, and so they would pull up on the report as an online student. They could, I mean, if we're not talking whole students,
Yeah.
that's where they could show up as a 0.5 student somewhere if they were.
Well, they could be our student and take some online courses, right?
Correct.
Not looking at open enrollments, but just looking at numbers in general, I just look at those high school numbers, and then when I go look down, I just kind of
Yeah.
breathe a little bit differently, I think.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah?
Just curious in terms of if there's a critical mass of students from other districts enroll here where we provide bus service for them.
We do not provide bus service for her. Generally speaking,
Mhm.
there are exceptions to that rule with if they have special education and they're in this district and it's in their IP that they get transportation. Those are general things that we are required to provide. If students are in foster care but living outside of the district, in certain situations, we would need to do that. If they're homeless and staying in a shelter in another community, that's another. So I don't want to say we never provide transportation outside of our own community, because there are situations that we are required. That is something that could be considered. And other districts may or may not send buses into our district. You know, it's one of those things. If we're going to be cordial, we wouldn't necessarily send our buses into another community unless they were already sending buses into our community, because we, I don't know, don't want to wake the sleeping giant either.
And to be respectful of other districts.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good question.
Now, I would say right at the borders, we may cross, you know, if it's on the same street and we're going down that street, we may, but generally not.
Any other questions, Superintendent Gradstein?
That's all I have.
Thank you. Next up is appointments to the standing board committees. Thank you all for for giving input. Tried to take input into consideration when divvying out committees, and replacing the board members who left with our two wonderful new board members. And then also trying to do some balancing of, you know, like knowing some of these committees require some additional work compared to some others, and so trying to strike the best balance. So the committee assignments are in the board packet. If you do have questions or concerns individually, please let me know. We can certainly look at those, but try to do my best. And thank you for your input on the committees for those who are returning to the board. That was very helpful. Any questions about any of that right now?
Probably just a note that Sarah will be in touch, asking about best times
Yeah,
to
for scheduling.
schedule based on everyone else's schedules.
All right. We will strike the last, item number 3, consider approval of middle school course program. I think that snuck its way on there, because we already did it in
No, that
No,
was high
this is
school.
the middle
This is
school.
middle school.
but,
We don't have to approve it, maybe
We're
it's
just looking at it?
Just
looking at it.
oh,
just
so
not
we're not
consider
considering
approval.
approval.
Just introduce.
Right.
We're just
so
introducing middle school. Okay.
Here's the difference
Thank you.
between the two. The high school was actually adding new courses, and the middle school it's not a new course. It's just perhaps a change in access to those
It's
courses.
just probably
Okay.
worded a little differently.
But we're not approving, we're just
No, we should
listening.
probably just say like,
Yes, you're just
review.
saying, wow, that's really neat. Thanks.
I say that to everything Mr. Graff says.
There you go.
Well, that's kind of like,
And
oh,
they've just
there's
done
the
the job
draft.
for you, Mr.
Wonder what he
Graff.
has to tell us tonight.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. So excited to share a change that we are looking into in our math sequence. And this conversation came about really due to the conversation about math sequence at the high school. It started us the conversation at the middle school, how we serve kids. And then also in relation to our ongoing efforts, I guess, to really challenge our super high flying math students, whom we have a number of. So what we are exploring is a potential for grade advancement, and this system is in place in other area districts. In it, students who qualify would actually be able to skip a grade level, and it makes sense for math because of the linear nature of math in the middle school. So in that proposal, students who would qualify could potentially skip a grade, such as 5th grade, and then just take that math class in the building, go to a 6th grade math class. And that all works out logistically. And the advantage of that is our students who take that track could take an advanced geometry class as an 8th grader, potentially earning that high school credit, which then sets them up for an additional year of advanced math at the high school. To qualify for it, we're looking at 3 different standardized assessments. The first one is our MCA assessment. Students would have to exceed. The next one is our A math assessment, which is a fast assessment that we take 3 times a year. And we're looking at students would have to score in the 98th percentile nationally. And then lastly, there's another fast assessment called the CBM math. We don't take it regularly, but North does. And this test is a little bit more skill specific, and we would also look for the 98th percentile on that assessment. And we believe that we have a number of students who would qualify for this as early as this year, should we get everything lined up to do this. Any questions?
So would a teacher come down from the high school to teach this, or would it be one of your?
So we had a meeting with the high school teachers, and that is still being built. That is still under discussion. We would phase this in, so we would have 2 years, 3 years to plan that part out.
There was a question about the possibility of middle schoolers being precluded from high school credit. Was that the issue? And where?
Yeah, so we're waiting from confirmation for the state, just the logistics of giving an 8th grader a high school credit, how that works.
Okay.
So that's the holdup right now.
The teacher's licensure area. We have to make sure that the teacher has
Yeah, that makes sense.
his full license.
And the discussion was that this is just the starting now and that it's gonna be fleshed out as we go through and any roadblocks. I like the fact that this is really responsive to the individual needs of students, so.
Yeah, me too.
So you have enough for a whole section?
No.
No, it would be a really small number of students who would potentially qualify, and then they would just insert into a regular, let's say it's a 5th grade student who skips 5th grade, they would just insert into a 6th grade math class.
Right. But in 8th grade, you'd have what, 5, 6?
2, 3.
2 to 3.
2 to 3, yep. So then we have to
Yes.
talk about what that would look like.
When they,
Yeah. Because that would be interesting. They want to count that as a course with our master agreement.
I think that's a lot of the same discussion we were having at the education committee, but then we decided that we were just going to tell Mr. Graff, okay, go. And now you have 2 years to figure that out. So don't disappoint us.
or the kids, there you go, yeah.
I mean, no pressure.
Yeah, or the kids.
I
Or the
mean,
kids.
Or
come
the
on.
kids, yeah.
Yeah, more so the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I think because that was kind of where we were at. And as far as about where to take that 8th grade class, I mean, we would just figure that out. Just kind of going with the flow, Mr. Coe. We're just gonna go with the flow.
I'm not
No, I know.
trying to
I was thinking all the
fight
same.
the flow, but.
No. We were thinking all the same things you were.
Yeah. I mean, if it's 3 kids, maybe they could just go to advanced geometry class at the
Yep.
high school.
We all think, yep,
That's
that's
a
exactly what we said.
good
too.
probability, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that Mr. Graff will give him a ride on a bike.
Maybe they could go
Sidecar.
take the Let's Go for a Walk class.
There you go.
Get 2 credits.
Yeah.
See, they're earning credit while they're taking credit. See,
My work is done. Thank you.
Mr. Ross, what do you got?
I've been exposed to this since about 3:15 this afternoon when I picked up the packet, so I
Yeah.
don't know a lot about it. My first impression is I'm impressed. I think it's a great offering. Second question is, and maybe that's an established criteria that we can't control, but the 98th percentile seems to be a relatively high bar because they're obviously very gifted kids that could be at 96 or 97, and you have to draw the line at some point. But any one test on any one day, the difference between a 96 and a 98 may be fairly insignificant, but could be very significant here.
For sure. So what we've talked about is setting it at this point, at this moment. We have to start somewhere.
Right.
But then having those discussions as this builds to make sure that we're being fair and equitable in that process.
Sure. Great opportunity for gifted
hopefully.
students, though. You bet. Thank you.
And with these gates of rigor, these 98 percentile marks, I know that speaks to 2, the A math assessment and the CBM math assessment. Are those for, help me remember, are those for differing age groups? Or it's not that they would both need to be passed for one student to qualify?
We're looking at they would both of those. They test different things.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The A
you
math
spoke
is
to
a
that.
very general math, broad math knowledge.
Their
The
skills.
CBM is a
Yeah.
little bit more grade level specific skills.
Got it. Okay.
We also talked about as this goes along, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a 5th grader who's starting this. There could be on-ramps at any grade along the way if it seemed appropriate.
A real life example of this, we have a student coming to us with a higher level of math than their grade level. So where would we place that student within our current system? Would they have to retake the grade level because of their age, or is there a system that we can build to support that student?
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
great.
Thank you, Mr. Graff.
Thank you.
To be continued.
So disappointed.
Next up is reports. Building principals.
The 2-tier system.
Love it.
Tier 1.
Coming at us in waves.
All right.
Well, so we're gonna look ahead to February in early childhood. We're done with January, skipping the rest. February is Dental Health Month, and so certainly we will be having a focus on dental health in our preschool classrooms, and we tend to partner with our area dentists to come in and talk to the kids, talk about dental hygiene, bring them toothbrushes, that sort of fun stuff. So we'll plan on having that again here in February. Our next early childhood screening is February 8th. As you've heard before, we hold early childhood screening 3 times throughout the school year. That is required that every student participates in screening before they enter kindergarten. So the idea of the screening is they come in, and it is just that. We check all the developmental areas, visit with parents, nurse talks with parents, and then if there are any areas of concern, we move forward with addressing those in whatever manner is most appropriate. So we have that coming up February 8th. We do still have appointments open if folks are interested in that for anyone 3 to kindergarten entrance. On February 10th, our early childhood family education team is offering our family friendship event right around Valentine's Day. It's a Saturday morning. Folks can sign up and come and do some fun activities, bring their kids into school on a Saturday morning when it might be cold outside, and just meet other families and have a little fun. So that's our family friendship event, which is also featured in the community education brochure. And then lastly, for February, we have our school readiness open house. And it probably seems a little early to be thinking about next year, although we're talking about registrations and such at the older grades. But we do have our registration night coming up. Folks can come take a look at our center. Teachers will be on hand. They can look at classrooms. And then we'll be opening our registration for fall preschool at that time as well. So we encourage people to come, and if they can't, just call our office and we'll have online registration again for preschoolers for the fall. So we're excited. We have 1 foot in 23, 24, and we're getting ready to put a foot in 24, 25. So excited about that.
Wonderful. Well, at South, we are still in January, and we are fully embracing into a recess. So we are looking forward to next week when it gets a little bit warmer and we can go outside, and we would love it if we could get a little bit of snow so we could actually play in it, because when it came, it was too cold to enjoy it, and there isn't a whole lot out there. We started off our year with quite a bit of illness. Coming back after Christmas break, it seemed like there was something going around in every one of the classrooms. So the nice thing about the cold is it seems to have squashed that a little bit. So we're doing a little bit better with that. It also brought in new students. We enrolled 7 new students this last week. So just this week. So we have 1 that'll be starting next week yet, but very excited to bring some new faces in. We are in the middle of our FAST assessment, and that's a screening assessment that we do 3 times a year. And next Friday is our January early release, so all of our teachers will be taking a look at those results, and they've kind of done some of their own assessments just because we finished our mid-year grading period on Monday. And so it's fun to just see the progress that the students are making, and it will be nice for the teams to be able to dig in and look at it school-wide and grade level-wise. So that will be happening next week. On Tuesday, we'll be having our parent council meeting, and we are having Beth Winterfeld, who is our mental health navigator for the district. That's a collaborative effort with the United Way, and she comes into our schools and helps to facilitate getting services for families in need. Her and Laura Zender, who's our counselor, will be just talking to parents about supporting the mental health needs of students and what resources are available for families in our area. So that's next Tuesday at 6:30, and we invite all the families to come. We're also starting our readathon, so the actual readathon date will be the first week of February, but envelopes have gone home, and that is just, they can only solicit donations from their families. So grandparents, aunts and uncles, get ready, but they have all taken them home, and we really try not to have the students out soliciting from anyone other than family members. We also have opened up our registration for kindergarten for next year. So if anyone is watching this online, you can go to the school website, and there's a special tab that says kindergarten registration. If you would like to come and tour the school, we will be having an event on February 29th on a Thursday night, where we will have staff there, and it's kind of a self-guided tour with lots of people available to answer questions. So again, we're also looking into next year already. And on to North.
And there's no powder rating of snow on the South Hill yet? Yep.
Right there at dirt level.
Always look at it on the skiing report. Greetings from North Elementary School, where we just held last Friday our afternoon of Passion Projects. It's a celebration at the end of a grading period, and all the staff members, not all of them, but quite a few of them, I believe there are 30 plus kind of Passion Project courses or classes that students could sign up for. Just anything from paper folding to yoga. I always kind of shift back and forth between the very rigorous paper football competition tournament or chess. And so we have some really good chess players, but I do want to report, Board Member Martins, I'm still undefeated, so I still haven't found somebody, and they're good. I mean, they were impressive.
They're coming. But you're better.
But I'm better. It's kind of Billy Madison dodgeball scene, right? So, but no, they're very talented. Of course, they just want to see how many wins they can have, and the big move was the 4-move checkmate. That's what they wanted to learn this last round. So I got to watch out for that one. And as Doreen mentioned, we have winter screening going on at North as well. We started digging into our data already. Press Data is a screener that we use to take a look at phonics scores, and that's something that we've been really spending a lot of time and focus, foundational reading. And from what we can tell so far, like a minimum grade level like increase from fall to winter is like 20%. So it's a huge gain. And so applauding our PLC teams and our support teachers, because I mean that just shows like when you put a target on something, you'll have an increase. And so hopefully that translates into like independent reading comprehension, and then obviously the rigor level goes up there where kids are really reading to learn rather than learning to read at North, because North is a pivotal building for that. So, and we'll continue to look at those general reading and math scores here as we have our early release next week. And then to kick off our next quarter, or the quarter that we're currently on, third quarter, we'll have the all-school assembly, and that's tomorrow. Our PBAS team puts that all together. It's very fun, a lot of energy. I'm really interested to see how our student challenge goes this time. Usually it's some kind of a competition. It could be like a Family Feud kind of a format or minute to win it, but it's almost like the lotto here this time. So we're doing some math building wide. Wow. So all the kids at North were asked 3 questions, like what's the most read book in the library, the most popular book, and ranked them 1 through 5, and then what's the most I wrote them down here. What's your favorite dress-up day, 1 through 5, and then what's your favorite day of the school year, 1 through 5. So they collected all that data from every student, and then students get to pick what they think the order was. So they get to see all 5 results, but they have to choose the order. So the chance of winning that is very slim, but there is a chance. And so if any student or group of students, a small group of students, like pick the right combination, they'll be announced tomorrow. And then the big prize is they get some credit at the school store, which is a big deal because there's some really nice pencils, stickers, erasers, and items in there. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, trust me. So I'm excited to see how they do with that. And then Representative Jeff Brand is going to be principal for a day for the afternoon tomorrow. So I got some great things. Got some afternoon off. I'll be down at River Rock.
He's up for a challenge.
There's no way I'm letting Representative Brand take on that challenge. Like he can't put a loss in that category. Sorry, Representative. Oh yeah. There you go. But anyway, he's going to do some lunchroom duty with me, like right when we get there, and he doesn't know this yet, but he's going to be welcoming everybody during the assembly. So hopefully the mic's ready to go, and then we'll get a good chance to talk about just how elementary education's rolling out in the state of Minnesota, obviously in our district. And this was actually put on by MESPA, like our Elementary Principals Association. It was actually supposed to be last Tuesday, but Representative Brand wasn't feeling well, so we rescheduled. He's coming tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it. And then also the North concert. We have one concert a year. That's in February this year, and that's on the 8th of February. It's at the Performing Arts Center at the high school. Thank you, Mrs. Engeldinger and staff. 2nd grade will be starting at 6:15, and then 3rd grade right after that, 4th grade right after that, as usual. And last, I'm excited, so I know this one's been going on a while here. I'm excited to announce at North Elementary, we've started the journey of applying for MESPA's School of Excellence potential award. So it's pretty rigorous. We're just in the getting the surveys all put together and sending out to all of our stakeholders, and then that's going to go in February here, and then the leadership team at North will put together, what's going well, what needs some improvement, put together a strategic plan that aligns with our district, send that application in, and hopefully we'll see what the results are this summer, where the MESPA has a group of principals that go through and rate all the applications. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, bottom line, if you don't get that award, that's fine, but like it's obviously you'd love to as a building. And it's not about having certain feedback or grades or assessment. It's about that improvement process. So we'll still obviously give us some direction as we go forward and see how we can adjust and maybe try it again another year if we don't get it. Cool.
Round 2.
Yes.
with all of the good things that are going on at North, next time I come up, I'll probably be talking about great advancement in every subject. Mr. Dory.
Just learned so much.
So quarter 2 is in the books, and after every quarter we do a data review, the building leadership team, and a couple of things that we want to celebrate. Number one, we met our building-wide goal of 2,800 Pride tickets. So students get Pride tickets for showing pride. Teachers reward them with these tickets, and they turn them in. The other thing that we want to celebrate is there was a 23% reduction in minister managed office referrals between first and second quarter. It's really a testament to the culture that we have going on at the middle school, those two celebrations. Just great kids, great staff, and just building some really strong relationships. Anecdotally, one of my biggest fears of losing the block was that our behavior referrals would go up because it's more time in the hallways, more transitions, and so far, we're actually seeing the opposite effect.
Have they been too cold, maybe?
Yeah.
That's coming. That's coming.
Sorry. Sorry.
Something that we are not celebrating, but something to keep on the forefront, our technology violations are up. And a technology violation is any time a student is on either the school-owned device or their own personal device when they're not supposed to be, they get written up for a technology violation. 2 reasons potentially why that is. Number one, we're really making a focused effort to be consistent in managing that as a staff. So that might have something to do with the numbers, but also it is still, technology is a distraction to kids. So ongoing conversations at the building level with how we help support kids in that technology use. And what will become of that is we'll have some lessons driven by our PBS team that will occur during advisory time, talking about how that technology impacts their well-being, something that Dr. Potts and I have talked about. And then lastly, as everybody is aware, we've had some ongoing HVAC issues at the middle school. This week, Wednesday, boiler issues created colder than normal situations in the middle school, specifically the office, media center, and 6 classrooms. Throughout the day on Wednesday, those temperatures did come up, but they remained below normal operating temperatures. By this morning, all but 2 of the classrooms were back where we needed them. In those 2 classrooms, we were able to adjust their location to accommodate that. And then by the end of the day, all but 1 classroom is back where it needs to be. So we are optimistic that the Band-Aids are working, and we're very, very excited for the project that is to come.
Thank you for your management of all that unplanned
Yeah.
response.
How many emails did you get today that it was too hot in their room?
Yeah, right.
Second semester is starting strong. We're excited to offer, for the first time in a really long time, our work-based learning class is up and running for our general education students. St. Peter graduate Jasmine Whitty is starting that. We are, some of you maybe remember, we used to have a work-based learning coordinator that was partially funded through us and mostly funded through the service cooperative. So that funding that the service cooperative was putting toward that, we have $14,000 put toward that course. Toward the startup of that for the second semester. So Jasmine she's got 5 students in that course. So Mondays and Fridays they'll be in a work seminar with her, and the rest of the week they'll be working and earning credit and money, and she will also be pounding the pavement and hopefully developing more partnerships for future business and manufacturing partnerships for future students. So we're excited about that. I'm excited for Darren that he has Representative Brandt coming to learn what he does all day. I had Governor Walz visit high school last Thursday, along with Representative Brandt and Governor Noel, and he had about half an hour in his day, and it was really fascinating, just the process of having the governor visit the site. He travels with his security, his 2 state troopers. A staffer comes ahead about 45 minutes ahead to get the lay of the land, and yeah, a fascinating process. A lovely gentleman, and he's a former teacher, so his interactions with kids were smooth. He was comfortable, and obviously extremely complimentary about the building and our kids and our teachers. So that was a really fun experience. I know that had you not been away at convention, you would have been invited to be there as well. But that was a really fun experience, and it was fascinating to see the kids. You know, you never know how kids are going to respond to something like that, and it was as if a rock star was in the building, and I'm proud of them every time. They were just great. It was pretty cute. So that was very exciting for all of us. Lastly, I should actually turn this over to Jana because she can speak to this much more eloquently than I. I started to talk about this with our new courses, but we're one course closer to being able to offer the Minnesota transfer curriculum, which means that especially not only through Minnesota State Mankato, but through all of the Minnesota colleges, our kids could go into any of them and have all of those courses transfer. Correct me when I'm wrong. We're just 2 courses shy. We need a chemistry course, or not any lab course, but a chemistry course would qualify with a lab, as well as a math department course. We now have a qualified chemistry teacher, so if we can get that, I know that's awesome. And we think that now we'll be able to get the math department at MSU to qualify Dave Kennedy as well. So we're also kind of their pet project right now. We would be the first school that Mankato works with that would be able to offer that transfer curriculum for their students.
So they could,
So it's-
somebody could graduate high school and have all their generals done.
Yep.
And could go right into like
Yep.
300 blah, blah, blah.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Into a state.
Into the
Yes,
state college.
yes.
Yeah.
Right. Private schools tend not to
Yeah, they don't play as
Yeah.
nice, but
play
you
Yeah.
know.
that nice.
But pretty exciting. Yes.
Well, I know you've already heard from me, and our biggest excitement really is our 4 graduates at Rock Bend. But we overall had a really successful semester and second quarter. Second quarter, our full-time students averaged 2.3 credits at Rock Bend, which is phenomenal. And we had a third of our students get over a 3.0 GPA, which is a really great accomplishment for them as well. And as individuals, they feel very proud of that when they see that GPA jump up. So it's really great. The Hoffman Center is also moving into its second semester. It's always exciting for our students when we rotate electives. When you're in a really small program and you get to see a different teacher and you get to do a small engines or an art class or something, that's always kind of the highlight. So our middle schoolers today were really bouncing off the walls in their new elective, so that was fun. And the good news from the Leo A. Hoffman Center is that they are feeling like they are finally in a much better place staff-wise as well, sort of like our custodians and maintenance team. Like, yes, we're finally there, so they are also increasing students. So we had a new student today, and we're having a new student tomorrow, and they've got a few more on the list for next week. So that's great for our program. We're also starting our second round of credit recovery at the high school in February. So registration letters and information are just going out to families of students that need that. And registration closes at the end of January. We are again thankful for great teachers that are volunteering to come in for more time. And so we will be able to offer, they're paid, but they're volunteering to
outside of their
come in
day.
and be paid additional time. Yes. But we were able to offer all of the core content areas again, so that is just great. I'm so thankful for those
Yeah.
teachers that do that. That's all
Excellent.
I've got.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Superintendent Gronza.
That means it's my turn. I'll start with this so I don't forget. All board members, please sign this form that you have from Sarah tonight. It is your ethical practices and conflict of interest form. You're asked to sign it each year. And so if you would just take care of that and get that back to Sarah so that we can have those on file as we should. All right?
Pass it.
Very good. I do want to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Graff was saying with the boiler and HVAC project that you passed last month. Almost on cue, the boiler decided that it didn't want to play anymore. And so we've had some issues. I know that when we came back Monday, we started having some issues with the boiler. I know they were having to reset it almost on the hour. They got it going. And then when we came back on Tuesday, it hiccuped again. There are 2 boilers. One of them was having some issues. Because we are planning to replace the entire system, we are not looking to do any large repairs, large projects to that prior to that. However, the project does not start until spring of '25. And so we are doing whatever we need to do to keep things operating until then. It wasn't necessarily the entire building that was cold. One of the issues we have with the system is that we're having trouble controlling where the heat is going and keeping them even throughout the building. So when I asked Mr. Graff were there complaints that there were classes that were too warm, it's because I knew that there were. Because when we turn on that system, it has to be, it's either on or it's off. Either it's making steam or it's not hot enough to make steam. So when it's hot enough to make steam, it's going out through the system, but some areas get more steam than others. So some classes may be upwards of 80 degrees, while others may be hovering around 50. So we're trying to do everything that we can to keep those classrooms warm. I know we brought some space heaters into some spaces to try to warm them up, keep them going. Please know that we will continue to do what we need to do to keep us rolling. But we are thankful that we've made the decision to, we have the long-term solution. Now we just have to work on some short-term things till we get there. The Mend the Middle project, it's kind of what it's been named because it's really about mending our middle school, not just the boiler and the HVAC, but really the full environment of the middle school. That will be rolling out with more information either late next week or at least by the end of the month. We'll be rolling out more information on our website, and I'll be visiting with groups throughout the community. Mr. Graff will be joining me and sharing as much information. And if there's other people that are interested in sharing information as well, we'd be happy to have you join us for that. So, with that, I'm betting you'll probably talk about the MSBA conference, so I'm not going to. So that is all I have for you.
Awesome. All right. Board members around the table. Let's start with Ms. Martins this time.
Okay, you mentioned the MSBA conference, and thank you. It was really good to have time as a board, just to enjoy other boards, and I think we get along pretty well, and we fit very high in the ranking of the school boards around the state, I would say. And the sessions were good. MSBA did a really good job. The focus that I saw was a lot about referendums and a lot about negotiations, and that was kind of the focus for people. And the robotics teams that were there, and maybe ours will be there soon, so that was good. I would also like to say that you guys all got an invitation to judge the school History Day event on Valentine's Day, this February 14th, and the public too anybody is welcome, and if you were interested in helping out with that, Mr. Sharstrom would sure like to hear from you. So it's a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Dixon? No updates. Mr. Cow?
Well, as I stated earlier, I had my first introduction to the billing process here. And one thing that I noticed, and you hadn't mentioned anything about it, so I was going to ask you, did you get the steps fixed coming down from the football field? I thought I saw a bill for footings and so forth there.
I believe they did some mud jacking, so they filled it in, and that would, the greater fix will be when we do this project.
Okay. So yeah, it's a very interesting, took me 4 hours to get through December's bills, so they were in order. So.
Good. Thank you.
I would also like to take this time once again to say thank you to Ben Leonard and Tim Lokensgaard for their years of service on the board. I know we mentioned it in December, but I just think it's worth another thank you for that. As far as the convention goes, I know many of you were unable to stay for the end keynote session, but that speaker I think was more in line what you've experienced in the past. And it was another Minnesota person from Bertha Hewitt, and he had some of his former teachers there and thanked them and talked about the power of one and how one individual can make a tremendous difference by establishing a close personal relationship with students and how that impacted him. So it was good.
Great. Thank you. No update from me. Ms. Stewie?
Well, a couple things. One on a more of a funny Tracy moment. I just want you all to know that when I left the hotel that day, I did look at the door. That it looks like it's just a door that goes between floors, and there was nothing on there that says once you're in that hallway that the only way to get out is going to trigger an alarm. So, oops. Just wanted you all to know that. It just looks like a door that you should be able to just go down one flight of stairs and get to the next flight. So, anyways.
Do you think we could get security footage of that?
No. But I mean, next year I'm going to make it up there. I'm going to park in the ramp. I'm not going to drive. I'm going to drive in all the right spots, and I'm not going to set off any alarms.
I was thinking of a different
6
hotel
years in, and
next
I'm going to get right.
They're not gonna. You're not welcome back.
I know. It's so different than St. Peter up there, you guys. It's so different.
One-way street.
I tell ya. I noticed in December, and I kind of missed this, and I meant to pull it out of the consent agenda, and I noticed that Brian Odlin had retired. He had been coaching football for 15 years, and I felt bad. Normally we try to pull those things out, and I have to be better at that. I know Tim Lokensgaard was so good at that, and I have to watch better too, but I just wanted to call that out because somebody coaching for that many years certainly is worth a shout out. So, yeah, so that's all I had. And I had fun with you guys all at the school board conference, and the food is good and the company is good, so thank you.
Ms. Ratzbach?
I appreciated going to training and the conference. At the training, I learned that there's a lot that I need to learn. Really a lot, but you know, it's all good. It was great training. The conference was wonderful. Thanks to Tracy for laughter. And one of the sessions that I went to that I found was really interesting was on AI and education. It's, again, more that I need to learn and more that I think a lot of people need to learn, but it was quite interesting. And I got to drive a Vex robot, That was
Yeah.
loads of fun, and I accomplished my task, and they said that they would take me on as their driver, so.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Russell?
You know, one thing about being seventh, it's really hard to be original. So a lot of good things have been said already. I won't be redundant. But I also wanted to mention that over the last 5 weeks since the filing date opened back in July, I've been at the meetings as a visitor, a spectator. And it's so nice to see the faces of the administrators. They're beautiful people. Seriously, it's nice to be back. Very much looking forward to the next 4 years, and obviously a great group to work with. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have some upcoming meetings of the school board. The policy committee, bright and early, Monday, January 22nd, 7 a.m. in the district office.
Can't wait.
HR committee, Wednesday, January 24th at 5:30 p.m. in the middle school conference room, A&B. We have a study session Monday, February 5th, and that is at 6:30 p.m. in the St. Peter Middle School Media Center. And then right back here for our regular board meeting on Thursday, February 22nd, the fourth Thursday of February, at 6:30 p.m. in the governor's room. We're good. Next up is our...
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
No, I've been to that.